So I'm just in my first day in Thailand after a couple of months hiatus, and I'm making this video because what's really struck me is the importance of the environment. And so I think it's important to realize that one aspect of mental emotional disease is reactivity. So there's presence and there's who we are at an essential level, and then there's pain at the gap between who we are and who we've become and how we're behaving and how we're thinking and feeling. There's pain, separation from, and longing for. There's this gap, and that gap is experienced as pain. And the more pain we're in, the more reactive we are, because reaction is simply a mechanism for numbing and coping with pain that's unendurable. So if there's a very slight pressure on our hands or our fingers, we can say, oh, that's interesting. If a door slams on the same finger, in other words, increasing the pressure maybe 100 times, there's so much pain that we want to react in order to distract from it, feel in more control than we felt if we were surprised by that door slam. If we consciously slam the door ourselves, we may react, our muscles will react. So, in other words, reflexes are not moral. They're often not terribly constructive. They don't come or intersect with the social terrain much. If you kick something to diffuse the panic you feel after having, your door slam in the finger, like I've done that, where something bangs my finger and I swear and I want to hit something to disperse all that fear, all that sense of being out of control, and to distract myself from just how painful that is. And in that state, it's completely self-absorbed. And there's a big gap between, my essential self and what is essentially a pain coping mechanism. Now, in mental emotional disease, the pain is often chronic and internalized, and so is the reaction. So we're more reactive in general. Irritation is simply a high level of reactivity. Anything you say to that person, they're, what's it to you? Why you ask? What's this? It's reactivity, reflexiveness, and it's an expression of pain. So, so the question is, our environment is a part of that pain because it either diffuses pain or it reduces pain. So in the Philippines, my empathic mirror neurons are picking up on suffering and hardship and struggle and desperation all around me, because it's about 4 times higher in the Philippines than in Thailand. There's also a variety of ways that this is expressed in the Philippines. Horn honking is at all-time highs. I've never seen a place where there's so much beeping and it's so useless, meaning if you beep at the car in front of you because it's not moving fast and there's 100 cars in front of that car, it's absolutely pointless. It doesn't move any faster, but that's what they do. And it's jarring. So it's shocking, it's jarring, it's rude, it's, unpleasant. It's hurtful in the ears when there's loud horns. Sometimes a car will drive by and right next to your ear, you just blare the horn. It's startling. Pedestrians have little or no value. Basically, it's the pedestrian's job to race across the road without getting run over. It's not the car's job to protect the pedestrian. The car is more valuable than the person in most cases. The pollution level is higher. The traffic levels are higher. The beauty level is lower. The courtesy level is lower. So there's all these chronic things that are within the environment. And the level of integrity and honesty is higher in Thailand. So immediately I enter Thailand, I'm in a 4 times more, I'm in an environment that is 4 times more congruent with my values: safety, beauty, health, quiet, peace. I'm out on this lovely balcony, which I wouldn't want to be in a balcony in even a 5-star hotel in the Philippines, because there's so much congestion and horn honking all around that's what I'd hear, at least in Manila. I'm referring to Manila, and now I'm in Bangkok. And so I come to Thailand. Of course, there's some initial stress over all the, plane and this and that. I sleep better than I've slept in months. I feel happier than I've felt in months. I feel joy. There's a real sense of wanting to wake up early as opposed to wanting to sleep in. Wanting to explore the beauty, wanting to share that, wanting to explore my thoughts, feeling the expansiveness of the day, the joy of it, and the sense that I could be here forever. There's nothing that I need to escape. And then it's in the people, it's in the responsiveness, it's in the care, it's in the nicer taxis, it's in the all the Buddhist decorations, it's in the temples I can see in view, it's in the water, it's just all around. And the reason I spend so much time in Thailand is I've noticed that without me changing it all, I'm 3 times happier. And what this is saying is I'm still in pain. I still have mental emotional disease. But pain and disease is, protecting myself here from the sun. Pain and disease is related to, you've got 2 substances. You've got the individual and the environment. Now, if the individual is completely healthy and has 0 reactivity and 0 pain, they can be in any environment and feel great. If the environment is completely healthy and without any pain and without anything conducive to pain, a very sick person can feel no reactivity and thus no pain in that environment. If a very sick person interacts with a somewhat sick environment, they're going to feel a lot of reactivity and pain. If a relatively healthy person in a very sick environment interacts, they're going to feel a certain amount of reactivity and pain. If a sick person interacts in a sick environment, there's going to be intense reactivity and intense pain. And so that's the key I'm wanting to influence, or I'm kind of just riffing about, because one of my philosophies or kind of truths that I look for is that or just beliefs, I guess, that I'll share, is that we can't ultimately be happy in a miserable environment just by willpower. In other words, if we're around depressed, miserable, sick people in a polluted, depressing, ugly environment, and we accept that this is our chronic existence and this is our future, no amount of success with a positive mental attitude, think and grow rich, blah, 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 and willpower alone. Willpower can work for a day, it can work for a week, it can boost things, but eventually, if the environment is overridingly painful and sick and is at a chronic state, the human being has willpower in short bursts. It's not unlimited willpower. Meaning, like, I can hold a 400-pound weight for a couple of minutes. I can't hold it for 10 years. So we have this ability in short bursts to spend an enormous amount of energy to change something, but not, as I say, to just hold up a 400-pound weight for 10 years straight. Like, we can't even hold it up for 10 hours. It's when we go to sleep, it goes down. And so the use of willpower is not to try and be healthy in an overridingly sick environment. The use of willpower is to change the environment to one that is conducive to being overridingly healthy. Here's what I mean. We can't eat terrible food, smell toxic chemicals, sit around toxic media, bitch about things with unreliable people, be lied to, be cheated, betrayed, hurt, abandoned, incessantly, and feel great about it. That's not going to happen. What we can do is, every time we have a burst of energy, improve the environment within our control. And so we can switch our diet to all organic food when we have a burst of will and set that in motion. Now our physical environment is cleaner. We can move house away from a certain amount of racket and neighbor fighting and stuff like that, and now we don't have that stress, that pollution. We can say goodbye to the 30% of our most toxic relatives and friends and just say, either I'm not going to be engaging anymore, or just stop engaging, or I want to honor there's been some really good stuff about this relationship and it's not working for me. And so I want to appreciate these qualities, but for the foreseeable future, I would request you not reach out to me, and I'm not going to respond. Is there anything you want to clear up about that and understand about that, or shall we just have this be effective immediately? And in that burst, a very uncomfortable thing that we couldn't put up with forever, but for an hour we can have that really uncomfortable conversation, and from now on, we've got a cleaner environment of friends. We can throw out the news if it's, basically a mixture of trivia and the world's horror stories, and we can consume a 30-minute-a-day diet of interesting books and reading. We can get rid of some depressing paintings on our wall and put in some houseplants. We can go out and get a dog that's always enthusiastic and happy, and love and care for that dog, so that now we have an environment of enthusiasm, joy, physical affection, and loyalty that may be more honest, more reliable, more joyful than most of our human relationships. We can start a meditative ritual to clear out old thoughts and bring in new thoughts. We can use our burst of will basically to make choices that shape the environment and give us new habits. And then use a little bit of willpower every day to sustain this new environment and always look for new ways to do that. And for example, when I was really fed up with some of the cultural aspects about the US, and I realized I'm in this vicious loop because I'm only talking to Americans about the things I don't like about America, and nobody in America wants to hear it, or they feel judged, and they don't get it. They don't get what because they don't have another reference point. When you travel around the world and you get to know the beauties of every unique culture, you realize that every culture has a beautiful strength and every culture has its drawbacks. And many cultures are opposite, or at least on different sides of a continuum. And so, America is a wonderful country in many respects. And it's a terrible country in other respects. And yet, if it's the only thing you know, it doesn't even register that it could be another way, let alone that this way isn't as good. And so that wasn't working. Talking about it wasn't working. Living there wasn't working, etc. I just did world research and said, what is the closest place that would kind of take all these things that I'm upset about and reduce them dramatically, and I don't have to say a word about it. And I thought Bali and Thailand were the two contenders. I went to Thailand first. It was so great. I've never been to Bali yet. I just come back to Thailand up to 5 months a year. But this year I've been in the Philippines a lot for another reason. But the key is I can use willpower to buy a ticket or to make the money, buy a ticket to get on a plane and come to Thailand. But then I don't have to use any willpower once I'm here. I'm just relaxing, and with effortless ease, I'm feeling joy, I'm feeling healthy, I'm feeling alive. There's no depression to fight. There's no fear to be afraid of. Because when I'm in a highly reactive environment, it becomes circular, because it's like this little trigger here brings up all this pain, and it's so intense that then I'm afraid of the pain, and then I'm so afraid of the pain that I'm trying to paranoidly look, what's going to cause it here? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? And I'm spending all this attention on pain management rather than enjoyment. And then I feel really sick, because the only thing I'm focusing on and can see in all that reactivity is the disease. Now, the disease is there. There are little moments where it'll pop up, where I'll get surges of violence or just little memory. And it's like, I'm just so glad there's just these little hints, and most of it just disappears. I want to leave you with one other kind of angle into this, which was I did some constellation therapy. And normally constellation therapy, it's a great thing to look it up. You can just look it up, Heller, I think something Heller. Look for constellation therapy, and then it'll often have Heller work or something like that. And you can read a little bit about it, and the body keeps the score. But I did some constellation work, and normally it's done around family and friends. But I did it one-on-one, and I asked the therapist to embody deities, like the spirit of plants, or a golden, abundant, rich unconditionally loving entity, just to step into that role. And then I'd start engaging with these non-human consciousness that, of course, have no judgment, no political overlay, no cultural overlay. They're just essence. And what I would find is that in relationship with essence, in relationship with divinity, in relationship with plant spirits, I had no reactivity, no shame, no reactivity, no guilt, no fear, no rage, no hate. It was just joy. In other words, I was completely healthy in a completely healthy environment. Now, as soon as I have the therapist play the role of an individual person, I get a mixed message and some level of reactivity. It's like, this bit of the relationship doesn't work. I don't like the way they judge me in this area. The shame they're dumping on me feels shitty, but the light they're giving me in this gift and insight is beautiful. And so humans are very mixed. And particularly when I'm in a sick state, it's relatively hard to find clean, healthy enough people to not get into reaction with. However, I can just step into relationship with the pure consciousness of a crystal, or the pure consciousness of a Buddha-like presence, and relate to that. And then I feel great. All the disease and stuff just disappears because they are not unhealthy. So all the unhealthy bits within me have nothing to react to in them. And so I get to imagine and get to have these tastes of really healthy living and well-being. And that's what inspires me when I come back to humans to say, okay, I'm never going to get that quality of interaction with a human being. I never have. I probably never will. It may not be possible. But there's so much more we can do than what we're doing in most of our social norms. And let's try and find out what that is. So that's just some of my thought I'd like to share with you today on my sun-rich deck at my favorite hotel. If you ever come to Bangkok, I highly recommend Chatrium Riverside Hotel. The staff, the food, the size, the value, it's just absolutely beautiful here overlooking the river. And namaste.